Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about the mobile gaming news that we got through Mr. Happy via some Chinese fan who has been taking part, I suppose, in the closed beta testing for Final Fantasy mobile game. So the Final Fantasy 14 game that we all know and love is coming to mobile somehow, believe it or not. From what I understand, it's being made by a completely different game development group in China, owned by, I believe, Tencent. And this gaming group is basically recreating the game from the ground up, probably using some forms of the original assets, but definitely making their own version of the game in terms of the networking, in terms of the code, in terms of all of the behind the scenes infrastructure that is required for making a mobile game, including what we would call an MMO mobile game. And a lot of people seem to think that since this is happening, CBU3 or Creative Studio 3 is going to be taking part in this mobile game development. I highly doubt it, since the gaming code programming language that these new Chinese devs are using is probably quite different from the gaming language or the programming code that the original team work with. So I don't think that we're going to see a major drain on the personnel resources that Creative Studio 3 has. In fact, side note, I'd be more interested in what kind of personnel drain happened as a result of, remastering the tactics game. As much as I like to see it, one has to wonder. But anyway, all that aside, I don't view this news of the mobile game as being a necessary drain on any kind of resources necessarily. Maybe in terms of corporate structure, there might be some shifting of their gaze and priorities toward this mobile game. But overall, it seems like this team is, marching to the beat of their own drum over there. They're doing their own thing. And what we're just getting is probably essentially like a reskin of the entire game, or not even maybe a reskin. It does sound like they're doing some fundamental changes to the systems as well to make it more suitable for the mobile game market. Now, of course, one of the huge questions that I've talked about in the past is how are they going to pay for this? Nothing is for free. And anyone who thinks that this is going to be somehow for free is they got to get time to have a reality check, I think. But I think most of us are prepared, right? I think most of us know that all games have to be paid somehow. And it's either going to be straight up front with a one-time fee, or it's going to have some sort of microtransaction bullshit. Or in the cases of a lot of traditional MMOs, they have a monthly subscription and you pay for the expansions. It's that kind of thing. So there's a few ways that you can handle an MMO, particularly you got to start thinking of pricing because of the servers that are required to run these kinds of games. And so one starts to immediately think about how are they going to make this work financially? Because it's not just about keeping the servers alive and, just, clearing out of the red into the black. It's going beyond the black into, I don't know, the green, profit. So, of course, I made a video talking about all the ways that this could go, the scummiest ways that this could go. And now, because of Mr. Happy's coverage of this person's video of a live letter, a mobile game dev live letter, through these various avenues, I've come to hear some news about some feedback that players have been giving, particularly surrounding certain pay-to-win or, pay to win ish mechanics. So let's first get this straight. I actually don't think Final Fantasy XIV is fundamentally a predatory game. I just fail to see how you could make it really, really, really terrible. Now, will it get terrible? I think they could definitely make the game pretty grindy and make it so that you will want to pay your way out of that grind. But on some levels, I think just the way Final Fantasy XIV was built, the way the MSQ works, the way the side content work, the fact that PvP has never played a massive role in the community, the fact that generally speaking, the classes are very well balanced because of the very specific combat style that they are relying on. All of this leads to just a less possible way of getting super predatory. Now, if there's one area where Square Enix is not afraid to go, it's the cosmetics, with their mounts, their glams, their dyes, their furnishings, all of this kind of stuff can get into that online store. But the good news is that, not coping here, that quite a few of the mounts that are awesome looking, quite a few of the housing and the glams that are amazing looking are also in the game. So it's not like they're giving us peanuts in the game and saving just the good stuff for the online store. There are genuinely fantastic mounts in the game that people love to use all the time, that are cool looking, that have aesthetic value within themselves. And so I honestly don't feel like Creative Studio 3 or the people, in Square Enix who are controlling the marketing, I don't feel like they are really that bad. Could it be better? Yes. But is it that bad? Well, I'm just thinking about other games that I know of that have been known for only putting shitty stuff in the game and then keeping the really, really cool glowing weapons and all of that in the cash shop, or locked behind special paid materials that you have to basically pay for with real world money. I look at that and I think Final Fantasy XIV isn't that bad. Now, like I said, it could be better, but not that bad. So it's part of actually one of the reasons why I came out of my mobile phone game phase, where I used to spend a little bit of money every month, not a lot because Pavo, but I used to spend a little bit of money here and there. I put a cap on it on my Google Play to make sure that I didn't spend more than, I think it's $5 or $10 maybe. Let's say $10 a month. I had a cap for all of my mobile games. Together, I couldn't spend more than $10 a month. And when I was playing Eve Echoes Online, I would attempt to pay this monthly sub through ISK, but there were many months where I couldn't get around to the grind, so I would just pay out of pocket for that monthly membership so that I could have access to all of the ships that were required for our Alliance ops. So all this to say, when I switched over to Final Fantasy XIV and tried it out, it actually released me from the madness that is mobile gaming. And I kind of looked around and I was like, what am I doing? I was playing Love Nikki, and at one point, I'm pretty sure I spent like $30 for like a digital dress. And you have to ask yourself, like, what's going on here? So essentially, even a minnow and a plankton of the whale ecosystem could look up and around and be like, something's not right here. So I kind of woke up further because of Final Fantasy XIV. And that's why I say, even to this day, even with the cash shop being what it is in Final Fantasy XIV, it's nowhere close to what it could be. And for that, I'm very grateful that the marketing team and the devs and Yoshi P are able to find a comfortable middle ground that is a bit more reasonable. Okay, so let's get to this mobile game news. Now, I'm not here to reread what Mr. Happy said. Instead, I want to pick out some parts that stood out to me and talk about how this compares with what I was guessing. So there were quite a few things that I could think of right away that they could monetize heavily in the game. Okay, so I started immediately thinking about, well, maybe you could buy tomestones. Maybe you could buy bicolor gemstones. Maybe you could buy any of the currency in the game that exists, like the wolf marks for the PvP stuff, the Krista, like the crystal things that also I think are in the PvP. Any of the special tomestones, the scripts, all of that could be monetized instantaneously. I just could see that. I just could see it happening. And another thing that I could see them monetizing, obviously, would be dyes, would be certain, gear, weapons. And there was a whole bunch. You can watch my video on it. There was just, to me, it was very, very clear that they could make this as grindy AF as possible. And then it could just turn into this grind fest to the point where people would want to pay in order to skip the grind. Now, according to Mr. Happy's reporting and the reporting of the original OP, the players told the devs that it was too difficult to get materia for melding. So apparently, instead of having materia set into each individual equipment slot, you have materia set into each head slot. And I suppose like head slot, chest slot, leg slot, so on, so on. And I suppose this is a tad bit better because you would switch from class to class to class. And I suppose that you would have different materia in the slots for each class. That's what I'm supposing, but I'm not sure. So if you think about it, let's say you have, let's just say summoner. So you have summoner, and then you have your head, your chest, your gloves, your legs, so on, so on. For each slot, you probably have, let's say, standard 1 to 2 materia slots that you can stick materia in. And then I'm going to guess that there's going to be some sort of advanced melding. Mr. Happy mentioned it, as well as the original OP mentioned that there's advanced melding that you can do with an 8 to 25% chance of failure, I think, or success. I don't know. I think it's failure. And when it fails, the materia is broken. It's lost. So we can see how this is kind of going down into that whole honing thing that I think Asmongold was doing in Lost Ark or whatever, or what Lazy Peon was doing in Black Desert, or what Josh Strife-Hayes and Callum Upton were doing in Diablo Immoral. And you could just see how people would be willing to risk it and push to get this advanced, melding ability, and kind of push the edges or the fringes of their melding capabilities to get this higher stat. And of course, I guess getting your hands on the material in order to do this melding, I'm not 100% certain. It wasn't exactly clear to me what is required to do this materia melding, but I guess some of the materia themselves or some of the other crystals involved with the melding process, question mark, all this to say it's difficult to get for free in the game. It was quite limited, apparently. And so the devs came out and they said, hey, we're going to change it. we're going to lift some limitations and we're going to change it. And this is very, very interesting because Mr. Happy pointed out that some of this materia that you would want for this melding, advanced melding stuff, was available in the battle pass, the paid battle pass. So, of course, people might say, therefore, that is pay to win. And that's a little difficult for me to say that because in my mind, I guess pay to win is when a player wins over you by virtue of paying money for superior gear and equipment. Whereas I feel like this is more related to the primal relic weapons specifically, but this would also apply to your gear in general. And I'm guessing that this would only really improve your chances in PvE content. So if there's any winning, it's really only like insofar as that you might be able to do a bit more DPS or perform a bit better in that PvE content. But is it really winning over the other players? And I suppose it will come down to how the community handles it. Because if the community starts shutting out other players who don't have this advanced melding in their gear slots, I think then we can definitely start calling it the pay to win grind. Because I remember Callum Upton and Josh Strife Hayes noting that in Diablo Immortal, some people wouldn't run certain content with players who were like essentially what is called, I think, in Asia, a rice picker, essentially. I can't believe I'm saying this, but so I could see where some people might see this stat increase, this materia melding, as being definitively pay to win, because it might make them more viable players, and other players who may not have this advanced melding may be shut out of certain content. Okay, the devs came around and said that this wasn't actually going to be as bad as people thought it was, because apparently you don't need as much materia to fill up those slots and to just get the basics down. And you don't have to switch because of the gear, like the equipment. You're not going to have to re-switch your materia all the time, not like in retail. And they assured everyone that this materia would only provide a minor addition to power. And yeah. And it was just like, like, oh boy. So I guess this kind of stuff would only be really useful for people, I suppose, who were going into really high-end content and wanted to min-max their stuff. But the sad part, or the relieving part, depending on your opinion on this, is that a lot of this is related to upgrading your primal weapon. So there's your gear that you might be struggling to have all of that proper materia melding in. And then there was also this primal relic weapon, and you would get the base form for free while doing a job quest. But then you had to upgrade it using certain materials that were really hard to get. And this final upgrading, if you got through the grind somehow, would add glow to the weapon. So this is essentially a glam. So it's not adding to the stats of this weapon. It's not making the weapon more powerful. It's simply a beauty, a cosmetic upgrade. And once again, there are some people, like I think Asmongold, for example, would say, oh, cosmetics, schmosmetics, it doesn't matter to me. But for some people, cosmetics really do matter. And the whole point of being in a social game is showing that shit off. So not being able to have some of those cosmetics really sucks. Like a few months ago, I was playing PGR and I saw a cosmetic for one of my favorite characters, and I just knew I couldn't afford it. I felt bummed out. it was extremely demotivating. Because even though in your head you're telling yourself that cosmetic doesn't matter, it still feels like it matters a bit because you have been invested in that character and you want to put your all into that character. So I think for me, cosmetics on some level do matter, because I am I'm here for a bit of the glam game. I'm here for the housing game. I'm here for that kind of living sim part of the game. And some bros who are focused only on gameplay, they can walk away from a cosmetic and not think twice. But for some of us gamers, and I'm one of them, the cosmetics do matter. And so locking some cosmetics behind a pay-to-win related grind feels sucky. And I absolutely get why a lot of Chinese folks would be kind of upset with that, especially certain portions of the gaming community who are more into the sim life, female players, particularly like myself, who like to make their characters look pretty and to have a glowing weapon. You have these bros who are like, oh, I don't like glowing weapons. That's fine. That's fine for you. The rest of us want one. Now, I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't have some level of grind. And even I will have to admit that if we're talking about keeping this game going and making it profitable so it doesn't shut down within like a year, we're going to have to accept that there's going to be some kind of a pay-to-win incentive in order to get the battle pass. Because you will have people who are not going to get a battle pass if they can simply just grind their hours away. But what was very interesting is that they said that they're adding a free battle pass to the battle pass. So it seems like there was only one battle pass option, which was paid. So it is a good idea to have two levels, one that's free and one that's paid. And of course, make the paid one more full of rewards. But apparently they said that they're going to add some of these materials or materia to the free battle pass as well as the paid battle pass. And this is fantastic news because it means that people will have an option to getting this material or materia for their upgraded primal weapon relic grind. Now the devs have come out with some changes on how they're going to allow you to get all of the stuff for your upgrades and your gear and your equipment, etc., melding, etc. So apparently you can now buy 3 materia, I guess, or 3 this material that you need with tomestones. And instead of being able to only do it 3 times per week, they've lifted the cap. So you can buy materials or materia as much as you want throughout the week, given you have the tomestones and you've ground for them. And obviously, they're probably going to have a way for you to buy those tomestones, so then you can just buy them. And apparently you will probably be able to buy them off of the market from another player. And to ensure that there's no weird black market or like botting or weird bullshit going on, they're putting a tax on, I guess, the market exchange for stuff like this, which, I mean, you either like it or you don't like it, but, it is what it is, I guess. You can get this stuff as well through treasure hunts now. They've revamped treasure hunts, so you can now, I guess, get them with the treasure hunts. You will be able to buy these materia/materials with bicolor gemstones, which you can get from fate grinding, which could make the world more lively. And I would think that would be fantastic, actually. And then finally, as usual, you will be able to get a chunk of these materia and materials in the paid battle pass. And then, of course, get a lesser amount in the free version of the battle pass. Now, all of this is very interesting to me because it's starting to kind of fill out in my head a little bit of what we can expect in terms of the microtransactions in the game. And this really tells us basically that the relic weapon grind will become a bit more complicated because of this need for microtransactions, and that the way to go about getting your relic will become more of a grind, which I think some people might legitimately enjoy, but for some people it's going to be really crushing. But once again, this kind of is what it is. In the rest of the video, Mr. Happy also touched on emotes. So apparently emotes were locked behind a paywall. Go figure. And they are making some of the original free emotes free again. And this was from apparently backlash from players who were like, what the we don't have as many emotes. Say dyes, for example, are also in the cash shop, and you can get them in the game, but I'm guessing they probably made it really difficult to make those dyes or get those dyes. So basically, they are reducing the price in the cash shop for dyes as well. They are reducing the price for the esthetician in the game. So for some reason, I don't know, people said esthetician was too expensive, so they reduced it to 1k gil in the game. So I don't know what was going on there. Maybe someone can explain that one to me. And of course, your average outfits, like I expected, outfits were going to be in the cash shop, which you would pay for IRL money. And some of those outfits were overpriced and their prices have been slashed. Now, what was interesting is that the OP noted that the pricing was slashed to 6 CNY. So for those of you who don't know, I'm from Canada and I lived in China for 9 years. And so I can tell you that a lot of people who would be playing these games in China are not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. And so to overcharge for stuff like this is really crucial over there. So I look at 6 CNY, I'm thinking, okay, fair. For us, 6 CNY in Canada, even with Canadian funny money, as Willie would say, is around $1 something. So on a good day, bad day, it's around $1 or so. So $1 outfit doesn't sound bad in Canada, right? Doesn't sound bad in Canadian. It's like 80 cents in USD, if that was the case, right? But I assure you, okay, I hope nobody is looking at the 6 CNY price tag and thinking to themselves, okay, so it's going to be around $1 for this outfit in the UK or the US or in Canada or something like that. I would see it. I would see it being like $5, and they would be smart, actually, because although there are millions upon millions of people in China that most of us Westerners, we can't comprehend how many bodies are inside of that country. Even though there are millions upon millions of people to capitalize on and to, extract money from, you just need a couple whales from the West or even from Saudi Arabia, and then you're kind of gold, right? So essentially, I could see them absolutely raising the prices for the Western side of things. So I hope nobody is looking at the 6 CNY price tag and thinking, oh, our outfits are going to be $1. I would be surprised if they were under $5. I could see some small accessories, some small emotes being less than $5, but I'm going to assume that a lot of the stuff will be $5 to $10, depending on complexity, including the mounts. So basically, the devs came out and assured everyone that from now on, the cash shop will only sell original outfits. That is to say, they are not going to take outfits from the retail version of the game that were free and suddenly sell them in the cash shop, which is actually wild to me for some reason. Maybe I'm just super jaded and everyone knows I'm black-pilled, but I'm actually surprised by that because I think that there would be some people who are tired of grinding out Pagglethon for that specific set of gear and would absolutely pop $3 to get the Pagglethon set instantaneously. Just saying. So, like, if I was them, I would absolutely be putting in the, some of the games harder to get gear sets, but make it like super cheap so that people will just be like, oh, it's only $1.50. Oh, it's only $2.50, right? And you get them that way. But anyway, that's just me being completely evil and black-pilled. You can say bad Chieko in the comment section. So basically, I guess to sum this up, this was a very interesting video from Mr. Happy and the original OP. It got me thinking yet again about the mobile game. Some of you might be thinking, why are you thinking about the mobile game, Chieko? And the reality is that I have a bestie who used to play Final Fantasy back in the day, but she's a mom now and she doesn't have a lot of time. And honestly, the mobile game might be her best chance to enjoy another video game with me. And I really, really would love to see her enjoying the story with me because she and I are so, on some levels, we are so connected in terms of the stories that we love and enjoy. And so I just feel like she would enjoy it too. So I'm really praying that the mobile game will not just be playable, but will be legitimately enjoyable. We'll have all of the amazing stuff that we absolutely need. And if there is a pay-to-win feature to it, I think my friend and I, we can navigate that together. Maybe I'll update everyone if and when it comes to the West. But so far, this is feeling par for the course. I'm not going to lie, everyone. Emotes going on sale seems about right or wrong. Outfits in the cash shop. Yep, that's what I thought. Dyes. Yep. Mounts. I would be expecting it. And of course, all of those rare materials that you don't want to grind for. Totally get that. Buying tomestones straight up, could absolutely see that happening because let's be real. Some of this stuff they said gives a small stat increase, and you could see the Savage tier raiders basically wanting to have that little extra power for those first weeks of raiding. And you could see some of those folks probably shelling out for instantaneous, melding and weaponry and equipment right away. But for the rest of us, casuals or mid-core casuals, we might be able to avoid some of this, guys. If we keep our head and don't spend money, I think we could still have fun in the game. It sounds like they'll have relics. It sounds like the housing will come in 2.2. It sounds like there will be marriages. It sounds like there will be more mobile game specific events. There will be Savage tier rating. There will be Savage Plus. There will be controller. So you'll be able to use a controller at some point. Cross-platform, on Android and iOS, stuff like that. The only two things that were mentioned that would not be included would be ultimate weapons, and custom UI layouts. Those were specifically stated as not being available, unless requested, I suppose. But all that to say, in summary, yet again, this seems to be pretty par for the course for me. I think this is pretty unsurprising, not gonna lie. If anything, I'm a little bit surprised about how they are walking back a few things, but maybe they're just trying to make nice for now, and then they're going to absolutely take us for our livers and our kidneys later on down the road once we are super invested and all of us are addicted. Okay, well, anyway, I'm going to end here. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this sounds crazy? Do you think this is FF14 bad moment? Let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll see you all next time.